The massive alien ship came out of nowhere. One moment, the space around Earth was empty and quiet. The next moment, a ship the size of a small city hung in the darkness above the planet. Its surface was smooth and shiny, like crystal, and it reflected the light from the sun in strange ways. Captain Jake Martinez was drinking coffee in his office on Luna Station when the alarm started screaming. He dropped his cup and ran to the control room. The hot coffee splashed across his uniform, but he did not care. His heart was beating fast as he looked at the main screen. "What is that thing?" he asked. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez looked up from her computer. Her face was pale. "It's a ship, sir. But it's not like anything we've ever seen. It's huge. Much bigger than anything we could build." Jake stared at the screen. The alien ship was beautiful and terrible at the same time. It made Earth's best warships look like toys. "Have they tried to talk to us?" "Yes, sir. They're sending a message now." The screen flickered, and a voice spoke in perfect English. The voice was cold and had no emotion. "People of the third planet, from your star, you will bow to the Zephyrian Empire. You will serve us. If you do not, we will kill you all." Jake felt his stomach drop. This was what everyone had feared. First contact with aliens, and they wanted to make Earth into slaves. "Can we talk back to them?" Amy nodded. "I think so. But sir, their technology is so advanced. How do they already know our language?" "I don't know, but we need to answer them." Jake thought for a moment. "Get me Colonel Ryan Mitchell, and get me Commander Lisa Thompson. We need to figure out what to do." Within minutes, the two officers appeared on the communication screen. Ryan was on Earth, standing in the war room deep under the Pentagon. Lisa was on the space station near Mars, where she worked as Earth's top diplomat. "You both saw the message?" Jake asked. "We saw it," Ryan said. His voice was hard. "They want us to surrender without a fight. Maybe we should talk to them first." Lisa said, "Find out what they want. Maybe we can work something out." Ryan shook his head. "Lisa, they just told us to bow down or die. That's not a conversation. That's a threat." "But look at their ship," Lisa pointed out. "It's enormous. Our whole fleet would be like mosquitoes fighting an elephant." Jake looked at the numbers on his screen. Earth had 12 combat ships. Most of them were old mining vessels with guns. Attached, the newest ship was the experimental cruiser Phoenix, and even that was small compared to what floated above Earth. "How many people do we have in the underground cities?" Jake asked. "Almost everyone," Ryan answered. "We've been preparing for this day for 20 years. Ever since we found the first signals from space. Most of the population is already in the deep bunkers." Jake nodded. The underground cities were humanity's greatest secret. Miles beneath the surface, connected by tunnels that ran under oceans and continents. If aliens attacked from space, humans would disappear like smoke. "Admiral Zixthara wants an answer," Amy said. "The alien commander is getting impatient." Jake looked at his friends on the screen. "Lisa, you're our best diplomat. What do you think we should say?" Lisa was quiet for a long moment. Then she smiled. But it was not a happy smile. "I think we should be honest with them." "What do you mean?" "I mean we should tell them the truth. We should warn them." Ryan laughed, but it was not a happy laugh either. "Warn them?" "Lisa, they have the big ship. They have the advanced technology. What could we possibly warn them about?" Lisa's smile got wider. "We warn them about us." An hour later, Lisa sat in front of a camera. Her message would go out to the alien ship and to every human settlement in the solar system. She looked calm, but Jake could see the fire in her eyes. "Greetings, Admiral Zixthara of the Zephyrian Empire," she began. "We have received your message. We understand that you want us to surrender to your empire. We appreciate you taking the time to introduce yourselves." She paused. However, we must decline your offer. We have no desire to become part of your empire. We suggest that you leave our solar system immediately. We are giving you this advice as a kindness. Please flee while you still can." The transmission ended. Jake waited for the alien response. It came quickly. Admiral Zixthara's image appeared on the screen. The alien was tall and thin, with a body like a giant insect. Its eyes were compound, like a fly's eyes, but much larger. When it spoke, its voice was full of amusement. "Flee? You tell us to flee? We have conquered 847 worlds. We have destroyed civilizations that were building starships when your species was still living in caves. You have 12 small ships. We have a fleet of 1,000 vessels. This is your last chance. Surrender now." Lisa looked directly into the camera. "We told you to flee." That was not a threat. That was a warning. What happens next is your choice. The alien admiral's mandibles clicked together. Jake thought it might be laughter. "Very well. We will show you what happens to species that refuse the generous offer of the Zephyrian Empire." The transmission ended. Jake watched as the alien ship began to glow with energy. Weapons were charging. The bombardment of Earth was about to begin. "All stations, this is Captain Martinez," Jake said into his communicator. "Operation Vanishing Ghost is now active. All civilians to deep shelters. All military personnel to assigned positions. The aliens have chosen war." Amy looked at him with worry. "Sir, what if we're wrong? What if we can't stop them?" Jake smiled grimly. "Then we'll show them why humans have survived ice ages, plagues, and world wars. We'll show them what happens when you back a human into a corner." The first energy beams struck Earth's surface. Cities that had stood for centuries turned to dust in seconds. But the aliens would soon learn that they had destroyed only empty buildings. The real fight was just beginning. Deep underground, millions of humans waited in the darkness. They had weapons the aliens had never seen. They had tactics the aliens could not imagine. Most importantly, they had something the Zephyrian Empire had forgotten after 10,000 years of easy victories. They had the will to fight for their freedom. The Admiral had laughed at their warning. Soon he would understand why they had told him to flee. 3 days had passed since the Zephyrian Empire began bombing Earth. Admiral Zixthara stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the reports with growing confusion. His weapons had destroyed every major city on the planet. The orbital bombardment had been perfect. So why did he feel like something was wrong? "Admiral," his tactical officer said, "we have a problem." "What kind of problem?" Zixthara's compound eyes focused on the nervous young officer. "The humans, sir. We can't find them." "What do you mean you can't find them?" "We destroyed their cities." "Where could they go?" "We don't know, sir. Our scanners show no large groups of humans anywhere on the surface. It's like they just disappeared." Zixthara felt a chill run down his spine. In 847 previous conquests, no species had ever just vanished. They fought. They died. They surrendered. They didn't disappear like smoke. "Send down the landing teams," he ordered. "Find out where they went." Captain Ben Torres crouched in the underground tunnel 2 miles beneath what used to be New York City. He could hear the alien ships flying overhead, their engines making a high whining sound. Through his radio, he listened to reports from teams all over the world. "Phoenix team to base," came a whisper. "We have eyes on the landing site. 12 alien craft, maybe 200 soldiers." Ben smiled grimly. Commander Kate Williams had planned this perfectly. Every human city had underground tunnels that led to hidden military bases. The aliens thought they had won, but the real war was just starting. "All teams, this is base." Kate's voice came through the radio. "Remember, We're not trying to win big battles. We hit them fast and hard, then we disappear. Make them afraid to leave their ships. Ben checked his weapon. It looked like a normal rifle, but Dr. Helen Price and her team had worked for months to make it special. The bullets were made from depleted uranium and could punch through alien armor like it was. Paper. Torres, you ready? Asked Sergeant Danny Clark. Danny was a big man with scars on his face from the war in Africa 5 years ago. Ready, Ben said. Maria, how about you? Corporal Maria Santos nodded. She was small and quiet, but Ben had seen her fight. She was deadly with explosives. The mines are set. When they step on them, boom. The 3 humans moved through the tunnel like ghosts. Above them, alien soldiers were setting up a base camp. They had no idea that death was coming from below. Ben reached the surface first. He crawled out of a hidden entrance behind a pile of rubble. The alien soldiers were tall and thin, with insect-like bodies. Their armor was blue and silver, and it seemed to shimmer in the light. One of the aliens was giving orders in a language Ben didn't understand. But he didn't need to understand. Words to know when someone was feeling confident. The alien commander thought Earth was beaten. Ben raised his rifle and took aim. The first shot took the commander in the center of his chest. The alien's armor cracked like an eggshell, and he fell backward. The other alien spun around, looking for the shooter, but Ben was already moving. Danny popped up from another hiding spot and opened fire with his heavy machine gun. The depleted uranium bullets tore through 3 aliens before they could react. Maria's mines went off a second later. The explosions sent alien bodies flying through the air. The survivors tried to run back to their ships, but more humans appeared from hidden positions. In less than 5 minutes, the entire alien landing force was dead. Clean sweep, Ben reported. No survivors. Good work, Kate replied. Now grab their weapons and get out of there. We need to study their technology. Across the planet, similar attacks were happening. Major Alex Turner led a team in Asia that captured an entire alien supply depot. Lieutenant Sarah Brooks managed to take 3 aliens alive in South America. Every attack followed the same pattern. Hit fast, hit hard, disappear. But the most important capture happened in Europe. Commander Tony Garcia and his team didn't just steal alien weapons. They stole an alien ship. Dr. Helen Price couldn't believe what she was seeing. The alien technology was amazing, but also flawed. The aliens had stopped improving their designs thousands of years ago. Their weapons were powerful, but simple. Their computers were fast, but easy to hack. Look at this, she said to her assistant, Dr. William Chase. Their power source is based on principles we figured out last year. We can not only copy this, we can make it better. William nodded as he studied the alien armor. Same thing here. This armor is strong, but it's rigid. Our new flexible designs will be much more effective. Within hours, human engineers were reverse engineering alien technology. But they weren't just copying it, they were improving it. The aliens had made their technology foolproof, which also made it limited. Humans made their technology dangerous, which made it powerful. Lieutenant Sarah Brooks stood guard over the 3 captured aliens in the underground prison. She had learned some of their language using a computer program that Amy Rodriguez had created. Now she could ask them questions. Why do you attack other worlds? She asked the alien officer. Alien looked at her with its compound eyes. Because we are strong, and you are weak. The strong rule the weak. This is the way of the universe. But you're not stronger than us, Sarah pointed out. You have bigger ships, but we're winning the ground war. The alien's mandibles clicked in. What Sarah had learned was a sign of confusion. Impossible. We have conquered 847 worlds. We have never lost. Maybe that's your problem, Sarah said. You've won so many easy fights that you've forgotten how to fight a real war. This is not a real war. This is extermination. You are insects. To be stepped on. Sarah smiled coldly. If we're insects, what does that make you? We've killed more of your soldiers in 3 days than you've killed of ours. The alien was quiet for a long moment. Then it asked, what are humans? We're the species that learned to fight by fighting each other for 1,000,000 years. We're the species that never stops learning, never stops adapting. We're the species that turned the worst planet in the galaxy into a garden. Your planet is not the worst, the alien protested. Really? Earthquakes, hurricanes, volcanoes, ice ages, plague, war. Most species would have died out in the first 1,000 years. We thrived. The alien's eyes grew wider. You fight your own kind? All the time. We've had thousands of wars. We've learned every possible way to kill and every possible way to survive. And now you've given us a new challenge. Sarah stood up to leave. You should have listened when we told you to flee. Now it's too late. Admiral Zixthara stared at the casualty reports in disbelief. In 3 days, he had lost more soldiers than in his last 10 conquests combined. The humans weren't fighting like any species he had ever encountered. They appeared from nowhere, struck like lightning, and vanished before his forces could respond. Sir, his communications officer said, we're receiving a transmission from the human underground. Put it on screen. Commander Kate Williams appeared. On the display, she was sitting in what looked like a command center deep underground. Behind her, Zixthara could see humans working at computers and maintaining weapons. Admiral, Kate said politely, I wanted to check how you're feeling. Are you enjoying your visit to Earth? You cannot hide forever, Zixthara replied. We will find your tunnels. We will kill you all, Kate smiled. Oh, we're not hiding. We're hunting. Every time you send soldiers down, we kill them and take their equipment. Every time you land a ship, we steal it. You're not conquering us. You're supplying us. Impossible. Would you like to see some of your equipment? We've made some improvements. Kate held up what looked like an alien weapon, but it was different. Sleeker, more dangerous looking. Zixthara felt his heart skip a beat. You cannot improve Zephyrian technology. It is perfect. Perfect for fighting other civilized species, maybe. But we're not civilized. We're human. Kate's smile got wider. By the way, thank you for the ships. Our pilots are having a lot of fun learning to fly them. The transmission ended. Zixthara stood in silence for a moment. Then he did something he had never done in his military career. He called for reinforcements. Admiral Krivax was known throughout the Zephyrian Empire as the Planet Breaker. He had never lost a battle. He had never retreated. He had never shown mercy. When the High Command told him that Admiral Zixthara needed help with a primitive world called Earth, Krivax laughed. One world is giving Zixthara trouble? He asked the messenger. What kind of world? A recently discovered planet, sir. The inhabitants call themselves humans. They have primitive technology, but they are proving ... difficult. Krivax studied the reports. 12 ships against a full battle fleet? This should have been over. In hours. Yes, sir. That's what Admiral Zixthara thought, too. Krivax gathered the 3rd battle fleet. 200 ships, the finest in the Empire. Planet-killing weapons. Bioweapons that could wipe out entire species, and AI systems that could hack any computer. If humans wanted a real war, he would give them one. Meanwhile, on Earth, Colonel Sam Peterson sat in front of a wall of screens in the intelligence center. His job was to listen to alien communications and figure out what they were planning. What he discovered made his blood run cold. Kate, you need to see this, he called to Commander Williams. Kate hurried over. "What did you find?" "I've been analyzing the Zephyrian communications. I know why they're so confident. Look at this." Sam pulled up a holographic display showing the galaxy. 847 worlds. That's how many they've conquered. But here's the scary part. Look at what happened to the species on those worlds. Kate studied the data. "I don't understand. Where are the warrior castes? Where are the military leaders?" "That's just it. They're gone. The Zephyrians don't just conquer worlds. They change the species they conquer. They remove the parts of their brains that make them want to fight. They make them docile, compliant, harmless." Kate felt sick. They lobotomize entire civilizations? Worse, they breed it out of them over generations. They turn proud warrior species into farm animals. That's why they've never lost. They don't fight warriors. They fight pets. But they made a mistake with us. A big mistake. They think we're like all the others. They think if they hurt us enough, we'll give up and beg to be slaves. Kate smiled grimly. They have no idea what they're dealing with. The plan Kate and her team developed was insane. Instead of defending Earth, they would attack the Zephyrian Empire. While the aliens were sending reinforcements to Earth, humans would strike at the heart of their civilization. Captain Joe Allen couldn't believe he was in command of an alien battleship. The ship had been captured 2 weeks ago when its crew made the mistake of landing near Chicago. Now it was painted with Earth colors and renamed the Knight's Edge. "Joe, are you ready for this?" asked Commander Rachel Stone over the radio. She was leading the mission from another captured ship. "As ready as anyone can be for attacking an alien world," Joe replied. "The nav computer is programmed with the target coordinates. We'll come out of hyperspace right on top of them." The plan was to hit 3 Zephyrian worlds at the same time. Not to conquer them, but to free them. Dr. William Chase had discovered something amazing about the conquered species. The genetic changes could be reversed. The brain modifications could be undone. The slaves could become warriors again. "All ships, this is Stone." Rachel's voice came over the communication system. "Remember, we're not here to kill innocent people. We're here to wake them up." The Knight's Edge dropped out of hyperspace above a world called Nexus Prime. It was a beautiful planet with blue oceans and green continents. It looked peaceful, too peaceful. "Scanning the surface," reported Lieutenant Commander Mary Johnson. "From the science station. I'm reading millions of life signs, but no military installations, no defenses. It's like they don't expect to be attacked. That's because they've been slaves for so long, they've forgotten how to fight," Joe said. "Let's remind them." The human ships landed in the capital city. Joe expected resistance, but instead found curiosity. The local population was a species that looked like large cats walking on 2 legs. They approached the human ships without fear, but also without aggression. "Are you the new masters?" asked one of the cat people in broken Zephyr. Ian. Joe removed his helmet. "No, we're here to help you remember who you used to be." Dr. Chase set up his equipment in the city center. The device he had built could reverse the genetic modifications that the Zephyrians had made to conquered species, but it had to be voluntary. The aliens had to choose to change back. "This will hurt," Chase warned the first volunteer, an elderly cat person who said he remembered stories of the old days. "Your brain is going to remember things that have been hidden for generations." The alien nodded. "I want to remember." Chase activated the device. The cat person screamed and fell to the ground. For a moment, Joe thought they had killed him. Then the alien's eyes opened, and they were filled with fire. "I remember," the alien whispered. "I remember who we were. I remember how to fight." Word spread quickly through the city. More aliens volunteered for the treatment. "Within hours, Joe?" watched as an entire species rediscovered their warrior heritage. They remembered their claws. They remembered their speed. They remembered their pride. But the most important thing they remembered was their hatred for the Zephyrian Empire. "We will fight with you," the elder cat person told Joe. "We will help you free other worlds." "We can teach you," Joe replied. "We can show you how humans fight, how to strike from the shadows, how to make the enemy afraid." Lieutenant Commander Mary Johnson began setting up training camps. She taught the newly awakened aliens about guerrilla warfare, about sabotage, about psychological operations. The cat people learned quickly, too quickly. "They're natural predators," Mary reported to Rachel. "Once they remembered how to hunt, they became more dangerous than we are." The same thing was happening on the other two worlds. Species that had been peaceful slaves for thousands of years were remembering their true nature. The Zephyrian Empire had been built on a lie. They hadn't conquered superior civilizations. They had created a galaxy full of victims and convinced themselves they were gods. Admiral Krivax received the reports of the attacks while his fleet was still in hyperspace, heading to Earth. 3 worlds had fallen to human forces in a single day. Not destroyed, liberated. The slaves were becoming warriors again. For the first time in his long career, Krivax felt something he had never experienced before: fear. "Sir," his tactical officer said, "we're receiving a transmission from Earth." "From the humans?" "Yes, sir. They want to talk." Captain Jake Martinez appeared on the screen. He was standing on the bridge of what looked like a human ship, but Krivax could see alien technology integrated into the design. "Admiral Krivax," Jake said politely, "we know you're coming. We wanted to thank you." "Thank me? For what?" "For making this so easy. While you're bringing your fleet to Earth, we're freeing your empire. Every world you've conquered, every species you've enslaved, they're all remembering who they used to be. And they're angry." Krivax felt his mandibles click nervously. "Impossible. The genetic modifications are permanent." "That's what you thought. But you made the same mistake you made with us. You underestimated the power of evolution. Life finds a way, Admiral. It always finds a way." Jake's image leaned forward. "We're going to give you the same choice we gave. Admiral Zixthara, flee while you still can. Go back to your homeworld and never bother another species again. Or stay and learn why the galaxy is going to be a very different place from now on." The transmission ended. Krivax stood on his bridge, looking at the tactical displays showing his mighty fleet. 200 ships, the finest weapons in the galaxy, the most advanced technology ever created. And for the first time in his life, he wondered if it would be enough. Behind his fleet, on 3 different worlds, newly freed species were learning human tactics. They were building weapons. They were planning attacks. The galaxy that the Zephyrian Empire had ruled for 10,000 years was waking up, and it was very, very angry. Admiral Krivax's S-fleet dropped out of hyperspace, expecting to find a beaten world. Instead, they found a nightmare. Earth's solar system had been transformed. Where once there had been empty space, now massive orbital platforms floated like metal islands. The platforms bristled with weapons that hurt to look at, energy signatures that violated galactic conventions on warfare, technology that should not exist. "How is this possible?" Krivax whispered. "They've only had weeks." Captain Steve Rogers stood on the command deck of Orbital Platform Alpha, watching the alien fleet through the main viewer. Around him, human technicians worked at stations. That mixed Earth technology with captured alien equipment. The result was something new, something dangerous. "All platforms, this is Rogers," he said into his headset. "The big boys are here. Time to show them what we've learned." The Zephyrian fleet moved into attack formation. 200 ships in perfect lines, just like they had done 847 times before. Beautiful, precise, predictable. "They're beautiful ships," said Commander Linda Hayes from the pilot seat of her fighter. "Too bad we're going to have to break them." Linda led a squadron of 30 fighters. The ships looked nothing like traditional spacecraft. They were sleek and angular, designed by humans who had studied every alien ship they could capture. Fast, maneuverable, deadly. "Remember the plan," said Captain Bob Wilson from another fighter. "We don't fight fair. We fight to win." The Zephyrian battle formation was perfect for fighting other civilized species. The big ships protected each other while their weapons created overlapping fields of fire. Any enemy that attacked in formation would be destroyed, but humans didn't attack in formation. Linda's fighters came from everywhere at once. Some dropped out of hyperspace behind the alien fleet. Others had been hiding in asteroid fields. A few rose up from the dark side of Earth's moon. They moved like a swarm of angry wasps, with no pattern that alien computers could predict. "What are they doing?" Krivax demanded. "This is not how space battles are fought." His tactical officer stared at the displays in confusion. "Sir, they're not following any known combat doctrine. Their movements are completely random." "Nothing is random in warfare. Tell that to the humans, sir." The first alien ship died when Linda's fighter somehow appeared inside its shields. Her weapons, enhanced with human engineering, tore through the alien hull like paper. She was gone. Before the ship's computers understood what had happened, Bob Wilson's fighter attacked from below, where Zephyrian sensors had blind spots. His missiles, guided by AI systems that learned from every battle, found weak points in alien armor that even the aliens didn't know existed. But the real shock came when the orbital platforms opened fire. Steve Rogers had spent weeks studying alien shield technology. He had learned something interesting. Shields were designed to stop weapons coming from outside. They were not designed to stop weapons that were already inside. "Fire," Steve said quietly. "The platform weapons didn't shoot energy beams or missiles. They shot pure force. Gravity waves that passed through alien shields like they weren't there and crushed the ships from the inside. In the first minute of battle, Krivax lost 12 ships. In the second minute, he lost 20 more. By the 5th minute, his perfect battle formation was in chaos. All ships retreat to minimum safe distance. He ordered, but retreat was not easy when the enemy could appear anywhere. Human fighters followed the alien ships, striking and fading like ghosts. The Zephyrians found themselves fighting an enemy that was everywhere and nowhere. "Sir," the communications officer said, "we're receiving multiple transmissions. Not from the humans, from our home worlds." "What kind of transmissions?" "Distress calls, sir. We're under attack. Multiple systems reporting human raids." Krivax felt his world crumbling around him. "How many ships do the humans have?" "Unknown, sir. But it's not just humans. The reports mention other species." "Species that should be loyal to the Empire." The truth was worse than Krivax could imagine. Lieutenant Colonel Chris Taylor and his cyber warfare unit had been inside Zephyrian communication networks for weeks. They had studied every message, every report, every personal communication. They knew everything about Zephyrian culture, psychology, and fears. Now they were using that knowledge as a weapon. "Broadcasting on all Zephyrian frequencies," said Major Karen Lewis from her station deep underground. She was a specialist in xenopsychology, and she had crafted messages designed to break alien morale. The transmissions flooded Zephyrian ships with sounds and images that touched the deepest parts of their insect brains. Sounds of their natural predators. Images of their ancestral nightmares. Psychological warfare that made strong soldiers shake with terror What is happening to us? One alien soldier screamed over the radio. They're inside our heads. Another replied, how are they inside our heads? But the psychological warfare was just the beginning. General Paul Edwards was leading the ground campaign on Zephyrian worlds. His forces moved from planet to planet, not to conquer, but to teach. Remember, Paul told his soldiers before each mission, we're not here to kill slaves. We're here to wake up warriors. Every world the humans touched became a center of rebellion. The newly freed species didn't just fight for themselves. They fought with human tactics, human weapons, human fury. The galaxy that had been peaceful for 10,000 years was exploding into war. On the bridge of his flagship, Krivax watched his empire die in real time. Reports came in from every corner of Zephyrian space. Rebellions, attacks, entire sectors declaring independence. How many worlds have we lost? He asked. 47 confirmed, sir. But the number is growing every hour. And how many human ships are involved in these attacks? That's the problem, sir. We don't know. Some attacks seem to be purely human. Others are led by species we conquered centuries ago. It's like the entire galaxy has turned against us. Krivax realized the horrible truth. The humans hadn't just defeated his military forces. They had destroyed the idea of the Zephyrian Empire. They had shown the galaxy that the great conquerors were nothing more than bullies who picked on the weak. Sir, the communications officer said, we're receiving another transmission from the humans. Admiral Janet Foster appeared on the screen. She was standing on the bridge of a ship that was clearly built from captured Zephyrian technology, but improved with human engineering. Admiral Krivax, she said politely, I wanted to check on your fleet. You seem to be having some technical difficulties. What do you want? Krivax asked. I want you to understand something. This isn't about Earth anymore. This isn't even about humanity. This is about freedom. For 10,000 years, your empire has enslaved the galaxy. You've turned proud species into cattle. You've stolen the dreams of 1 billion worlds. Janet's expression hardened. That ends now. You cannot fight the entire empire. We're not fighting the empire, Admiral. We're freeing it. Every world you conquered, every species you enslaved, they're all remembering who they used to be. And they're choosing to fight. Behind Janet, Krivax could see the bridge crew. They weren't all human. He recognized at least 6 different species, all working together, all focused on the same goal. You see, Admiral, you made a fundamental mistake. You thought conquest was about force. But real strength comes from choice. Every being we've freed chose to fight for their freedom. Every world we've liberated chose to stand up to tyranny. Janet leaned forward. Your empire is built on fear and slavery. Our alliance is built on hope and freedom. Which do you think is stronger? The transmission ended. Krivax looked around his bridge at his officers. For the first time, he saw doubt. In their compound eyes, fear. Not fear of death, but fear of something worse. Fear that everything they had believed was wrong. Sir, the tactical officer said quietly, what are your orders? Krivax stared at the tactical display. His fleet was scattered and broken. His empire was in revolt. His enemy was everywhere and nowhere. For the first time in his military career, Admiral Krivax, the planet breaker, the unconquered hero of the Zephyrian Empire, had no idea what to do. Send a message to the High Command, he said finally. Tell them we need to talk to the Emperor. Tell them the war is not going according to plan. What should I say is the problem, sir? Krivax looked at the screen showing the chaos of battle. Around Earth, human fighters danced between his ships like demons. Orbital platforms destroyed his vessels with weapons that defied physics. And somewhere in the darkness, An entire galaxy was rising up against everything the Zephyrian Empire represented. "Tell them," Krivak said slowly, "that we found something we didn't expect." "What's that, sir?" "Humans." Emperor Zixthal had ruled the Zephyrian Empire for 3,000 years. He had never left his throne world. He had never needed to. His generals conquered worlds while he sat in his crystal palace, receiving tribute from 1,000 species. Now, for the first time in his long reign, the Emperor was going to war. The Imperial Guard surrounded his massive flagship as it moved through hyperspace toward Earth. 10,000 ships, the finest warriors in the Empire, weapons that could crack planets in half. The humans had humiliated his generals, destroyed his fleets, and turned his empire against itself. But they had never faced the Emperor himself. "Your Majesty," said General Vextar, commander of the Imperial Guard, "our scouts report that the human system is heavily defended. They have built orbital platforms around every major body. Their technology appears to be a fusion of captured Zephyrian equipment and their own innovations." Emperor Zixthal's ancient compound eyes glittered with rage. "They steal our technology, and think that makes them our equals?" "Not equals, Your Majesty. The reports suggest their modifications actually improve upon our designs." The Emperor's mandibles clicked in displeasure. "Impossible. Zephyrian technology is perfect. It has been refined over millennia." "Yes, Your Majesty. That may be the problem." Admiral Janet Foster stood in the command center deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. Around her, displays showed the approaching Imperial fleet. 10,000 ships, more firepower than had ever been, assembled in galactic history. "They're not hiding," she said to her staff. "They want us to see them coming." Colonel Sam Peterson nodded. "It's a psychological tactic. They want us to feel overwhelmed." "Are we overwhelmed?" Janet asked. Captain Nick Brown, recently promoted to Admiral, smiled grimly. "Ma'am, we've been preparing for this moment since the war started. Every captured ship, every freed world, every species we've awakened. They're all here." Janet looked at the tactical display. The numbers were still against humanity. 10,000 enemy ships against maybe 3,000 allied vessels. But the numbers didn't tell the whole story. "Show me our fleet composition," she ordered. The display changed. Human ships formed the core of the fleet, but they were supported by vessels from dozens of species. The cat people from Nexus Prime had brought fast attack ships. The crystalline beings from Zarian had contributed energy weapons that could drain power from enemy ships. The aquatic Thalassans had developed underwater fighters that could operate in the gas clouds around Jupiter. Every species brought something different. Every world contributed its own way of fighting. The Zephyrian Empire had created a galaxy of specialists, each perfect at one thing. Now those specialists were working together. "Your Majesty," General Vextar reported, "the human fleet is moving to intercept us at the edge of their system." Emperor Zixthal studied the tactical display. "They're outnumbered 3-1. Why are they not hiding behind their orbital defenses?" "Unknown, Your Majesty. Human tactics continue to be unpredictable. It doesn't matter. We will crush them in open battle, then destroy their pathetic planet. Today, the galaxy learns what happens to those who defy the Zephyrian Empire." The two fleets met in the space between Saturn and Jupiter. For a moment, they faced each other in silence, like two ancient armies preparing for battle. Emperor Zixthal opened communications with the human fleet. Admiral Foster's image appeared on his screen. She looked calm, almost peaceful. "Emperor," she said politely, "we've been expecting you." "Surrender now," Zixthal commanded, "and I will grant you a quick death. Continue to resist, and I will make your species suffer for 1,000 generations." Janet smiled. "You know, that's exactly what we thought you'd say." You've been saying the same thing for 10,000 years, haven't you? The same threats, the same promises, the same arrogance. I am the Emperor of the galaxy. You were. But empires fall, Your Majesty, and today yours ends. The battle began with a roar of energy that lit up half the solar system. The Imperial Guard attacked in perfect formation, their weapons creating a wall of destruction that had swept away countless civilizations. But the human fleet didn't meet them head-on. Instead, they scattered like leaves in a wind, each ship group moving in a different direction. The Zephyrians found themselves shooting at empty space, while human forces struck from unexpected angles. Captain Nick Brown led the main assault on the Emperor's flagship. His ship, the Defiance, was built from the hull of a captured Zephyrian dreadnought, but powered by human fusion engines and armed with weapons that shouldn't have been possible. All fighters, this is Brown, he said into his communicator. Remember, we're not here to destroy the Emperor. We're here to capture him. Why capture him? Asked one of his pilots. He's a monster. Because, Nick replied, we're not monsters. We're humans. The space battle raged for hours. Ships exploded like miniature suns. Energy beams carved through hulls like knives through paper. But slowly, inevitably, the Imperial Guard began to fall back. The problem was the same one that had plagued every Zephyrian force since the war began. They fought like they always had, using tactics that had worked for millennia. But humanity and their allies fought like they were making up the rules as they went along. Your Majesty, General Vextar said urgently, we need to retreat. The fleet is taking heavy casualties. Emperor Zixthul stared at the tactical display. In disbelief. How? We have superior numbers. Superior technology. The humans are not fighting like any species we've ever encountered. They sacrifice their own ships to save others. They coordinate attacks across impossible distances. They seem to know what we're going to do before we do it. The truth was even worse than the general realized. Lieutenant Colonel Chris Taylor's cyber warfare unit had been inside Imperial communications since the battle started. Every order, every tactical adjustment, every desperate plan was known to the humans seconds after it was issued. But the real breakthrough came when Dr. Helen Price's team finished their analysis of Imperial technology. The weapons that could crack planets, the shields that could stop anything, the AI systems that ran the Empire, they all had one fatal flaw. They were designed to be perfect. And perfect systems don't adapt. Nick, this is Control, came Janet's voice over the radio. We found the weakness in their flagship shields. Send the coordinates to all attack groups. Nick smiled as he saw the data. You beautiful, brilliant humans. All ships, target the shield generators. Specific coordinates incoming. The attack on the Emperor's flagship was like a surgical strike. Human fighters, supported by allies from a dozen worlds, hit precise targets with weapons designed to exploit weaknesses that the Zephyrians didn't even know existed. The great ship's shields failed. Its weapons went offline. Its engines sputtered and died. Your Majesty, General Vextar said quietly, we have been boarded. Emperor Zixthul felt something he had never experienced in 3,000 years of life. Fear. Not fear of death, but fear of failure. Fear that everything he had built was crumbling around him. Nick Brown and his boarding team moved through the Imperial flagship like ghosts. The ship was huge, with corridors wide enough to fly aircraft through, but the humans had studied its layout for weeks. They knew exactly where to go. The Emperor's throne room was a crystal cathedral floating in the heart of the ship. Zixthul sat on a throne made from the bones of extinct species, surrounded by the treasures of 1,000 worlds. Emperor, Nick said as he entered the chamber. His weapon was drawn, but not aimed. Behind him came soldiers from Earth, freed slaves. From conquered worlds and beings whose species had been thought extinct. "Have you come to kill me?" Zixthel asked. "No," Nick replied. "We've come to give you a choice." "What choice?" Colonel Lisa Martinez stepped forward. She had been promoted to chief negotiator after her success in the early battles. "The same choice we offered your admirals. Surrender and face trial for your crimes, or flee beyond the galactic rim with whatever forces remain loyal to you." "Trial? You would put an emperor on trial?" "We would put a war criminal on trial," Lisa corrected. "The title doesn't matter anymore." Emperor Zixthel looked around his throne room at the faces of his enemies. Humans who should have been ashes. Aliens who should have been slaves. Species who should have been extinct. "How?" he asked. "How did you defeat us?" Commander Ashley Clark, who had been part of the first human diplomatic team, answered. "We told you to flee. We tried to warn you, but you wouldn't listen. But we are superior. We have conquered 847 worlds." "You conquered 847 graveyards," Ashley replied. "You didn't fight warriors. You fought the corpses of civilizations you had already broken. But you made a mistake with us." "What mistake?" "You told us to surrender before you understood what we were. You see, Your Majesty, we've been fighting ourselves for millions of years. Every possible form of warfare, every kind of weapon, every tactic that could ever be invented, we've used it all against each other." Ashley's voice grew hard. "We are a species that learned to survive by fighting the most dangerous predator. On our planet, ourselves, we turned the most hostile world in the galaxy into a garden by refusing to give up, ever, no matter what tried to kill us. We tried to spare you from learning what happens when you back a human into a corner," Ashley continued. "We gave you a warning. We told you to flee. Not because we wanted to threaten you." Admiral Jake Morrison walked through the main hall of Kepler Prime Station. His boots made soft sounds on the metal floor. Behind him, Lieutenant Amy Foster and Commander Paul Hayes followed closely. They were the human team at the Galactic Defense. Summit. The station was huge. Bright lights hung from the ceiling. Aliens from many worlds filled the corridors. Some looked like tall, thin birds. Others had blue skin that glowed softly. A few had 4 arms and walked on 6 legs. Jake wore his best uniform. The dark blue fabric had gold stripes on the shoulders. A small Earth flag was sewn on his left sleeve. Amy carried a datapad with ship information. Paul held a metal case with technical drawings. They reached the main meeting room. The doors slid open with a quiet hiss. Inside, hundreds of beings sat around a circular table. The room was so big that Jake could barely see the other side. "The humans have arrived," announced a voice from speakers in the walls. All heads turned to look at them. Some aliens made clicking sounds. Others whistled softly. Jake took his seat between 2 empty chairs. A tall alien with silver skin sat to his left. The being had 3 eyes and no mouth that Jake could see. To his right was a creature that looked like a walking crystal. Light moved through its body in pretty patterns. "Welcome, Admiral Morrison," said Fleet Marshal Calzin from across the table. The Centauri leader had pale skin and large black eyes. His voice was calm and polite. "We are excited to see what Earth brings to our defense forces." Jake nodded. "Thank you, Marshal. We are ready to show you our new ship." A screen dropped from the ceiling. Jake pressed a button on his datapad. The image of a spaceship appeared on the screen. It was big and gray. The hull looked thick and heavy. Weapons stuck out from the sides like spikes. The ship had a square shape that seemed rough and simple. "This is the USS Defiant," Jake said. "Our first deep space warship." The room went quiet for a moment. Then someone started laughing. It was a sound like broken glass. More aliens joined in. The noise grew louder and louder. High Admiral Vextar stood up. He was from the Zephyrian Empire. His body was long and thin like a snake. His skin was green and covered in small scales. 2 arms grew from his chest. His head was shaped like a triangle. "This is your warship?" Vextar asked. His voice was high and sharp. "It looks like a flying brick. Where are the curved lines? Where are the energy collectors? This design is from the Stone Age." More laughter filled the room. Crystal Singer Nethera's body flashed bright colors. She was the leader of the Altarian forces. Her people were made of living crystal. "Humans still use metal plates for armor," she said. Her voice sounded like wind chimes. "My ship's hull is grown from pure crystal. It can bend light around itself. This human ship cannot even hide from basic sensors." The alien next to Jake made a sound like a computer crashing. Paul leaned forward and whispered, "That was laughter, sir." Jake's face stayed calm. Amy's hands made fists under the table. Paul just stared at his datapad. "The weapons are even worse," said another voice. A 4-armed being with blue fur pointed at the screen. "Those are kinetic cannons. They shoot chunks of metal. My grandmother's cargo ship has better weapons than this." "Look at the engine design," Vextar continued. "Chemical rockets for main power, fusion drives for backup. We stopped using those systems 1,000 years ago. Our ships move by bending space itself." The crystal being next to Jake spoke for the first time. "The computer systems are probably mechanical too. Do humans still use wires and circuits?" More laughter echoed through the room. Some aliens were holding their sides. Others were wiping tears from their eyes. Fleet Marshal Kelzan raised his hand. The noise slowly stopped. "Please, friends, let us show respect for our new allies." But even Kelzan looked doubtful. His large eyes studied the image of the Defiant. "Admiral Morrison, may I ask about your ship's capabilities? What can it do that our vessels cannot?" Jake stood up slowly. He looked around the room at all the alien faces. Some were still smiling. Others looked bored. A few seemed almost sorry for the humans. "The Defiant represents Earth's commitment to galactic defense," Jake said. His voice was steady and clear. "We believe it will serve well in any conflict." "But what makes it special?" asked Nethera. Her crystal body was still flashing bright colors. "Our ships can travel faster than light without making a ripple. We can fire beams that cut through any known material. We can shield ourselves from any attack. What does your metal box offer?" Jake looked at Amy and Paul. They both nodded slightly. "You will see," Jake said simply. The room erupted in more laughter. Vextar was making that broken glass sound again. The 4-armed alien was slapping the table with all of his hands. "Humans and their mysteries," said a voice from somewhere in the crowd. "They probably think we will be impressed by their primitive technology. Maybe they will ram enemy ships," suggested another alien. "That seems like something humans would try." "Or throw rocks," added a third voice. "Humans love throwing things." Jake sat down. The presentation continued with other species showing their ships. The Zephyrian vessels looked like smooth teardrops made of liquid metal. The Altarian ships were beautiful crystal structures that seemed to sing as they moved. The Centauri had white ships that glowed with soft light. Each design was more advanced than the last. Energy weapons that could destroy planets. Shields that could stop anything. Engines that could cross the galaxy in days. The human ship looked worse and worse by comparison. It was ugly, slow, and simple. Everyone in the room could see that. When the meeting ended, aliens filed out in small groups. They were still talking about the human ship. Most of them were still laughing. Jake, Amy, and Paul walked back to their quarters in silence. The corridors seemed longer now. The bright lights felt too harsh. They do not understand, Paul said finally. They will, Jake replied, sooner than they think. Amy looked at her datapad. Message from Earth Command, sir. The Defiant is ready. For deployment, Jake nodded. Good. Something tells me we will need it soon. None of them knew how right he was. Captain Lisa Brooks sat in her command chair on the bridge of the USS Defiant. Red warning lights flashed across the control panels. Her crew worked quickly at their stations. The alarm had been going off for 10 minutes. Report, Lisa said. She was a small woman with short brown hair. Her uniform was clean and pressed. A silver star sat on each shoulder. Long-range sensors are picking up something big, said Lieutenant Kate Sullivan from the weapons station. She was young with blonde hair tied back in a ponytail. Whatever it is, it's huge, Captain. Commander Ryan Clark looked up from his console. He was tall and thin with gray hair at his temples. The readings don't match anything in our database. The ships are completely unknown. Lisa stood up and walked to the main screen. Space looked normal. Stars twinkled in the distance. But the computer was showing red dots moving toward their galaxy. How many ships? Lisa asked. Computer says at least 10,000, Kate replied. But the signatures are weird. They keep changing. Changing how? Like they're learning about our sensors, Ryan explained. Each scan gives us different information. Lisa frowned. That's not possible. A communication came through on the main channel. It was Fleet Marshal Kelsen's voice. All ships, this is Galactic Command. We have detected a massive fleet approaching from the Andromeda Galaxy. All member worlds must send their best warships to the Titan Nebula immediately. This is not a drill. The bridge went quiet. Lisa looked at her crew. They had trained for this moment, but now it was real. Set course for the Titan Nebula, Lisa ordered. Maximum speed. Aye, Captain, said the pilot. The ship turned and accelerated. Stars began to blur past the windows. 3 days later, the Defiant arrived at the meeting point. Lisa stared at the view screen in amazement. Hundreds of alien ships filled the space around them. They were beautiful and terrible at the same time. The Zephyrian fleet looked like a school of metal fish. Their ships moved in perfect formation. Green light pulsed along their hulls. High Admiral Vextar's flagship was the largest. It was shaped like a crescent moon with weapons covering every surface. The Altarian ships were pure crystal. They caught starlight and bent it into rainbow patterns. Crystal Singer Netherast's vessel was a work of art. It looked like a giant diamond with facets that moved and changed. The Centauri had brought white ships that glowed like small suns. Fleet Marshal Calzon's command ship was smooth and graceful. Energy flickered around its edges like lightning. Then there was the Defiant. Gray, square, and ugly next to all the beautiful alien vessels. Incoming transmission, Kate said. Put it on screen. High Admiral Vestar appeared on the main display. His green scales looked darker than usual. His triangular head moved from side to side. Captain Brooks, he said. His voice was cold. You? I'll take position in the rear guard. Stay away from the main battle. We do not want your ship getting in the way. Admiral, we're ready to fight, Lisa said. The Defiant can handle itself. Vextar made that broken glass laugh. Your metal box belongs in the back with the supply ships. Let the real warships handle this threat. The communication ended. Lisa's hands made fists. Orders, Captain? Ryan asked. Take us to the rear, Lisa said through her teeth. But stay ready for anything. The fleet moved into formation. The most advanced ships took the front lines. The Defiant was pushed to the very back with cargo vessels and hospital ships. Then the enemy arrived. Space seemed to tear, open like paper. A black hole appeared in the middle of nowhere. Ships began pouring out of it. They were dark and angular. They absorbed light instead of reflecting it. The hulls looked like they were made of shadow. "My God," Kate whispered, "there are thousands of them." The enemy ships were all different sizes. Some were as small as fighters. Others were bigger than space stations. They moved in patterns that hurt to look at. Geometric shapes that didn't make sense. "What are they?" Ryan asked. "Computer is calling them devourers," Kate said. "According to the database, they're from another galaxy. They eat entire star systems." Lisa watched the alien fleet arrange itself for battle. The Zephyrians took the center. Their green ships glowed brighter. The Altarians spread out on the flanks. Crystal light danced across their hulls. The Centauri formed a reserve behind the main line. "All ships, this is Fleet Marshal Kelson," came the voice over the radio. "The enemy is adapting to our sensor sweeps. Prepare for immediate engagement." The first shots were fired by the Zephyrians. Green beams of plasma lanced out across space. They hit the dark ships and exploded in bright flashes. The alien commanders cheered, but the celebration was short. The second volley of plasma beams hit the same targets. This time, the enemy ships absorbed the energy. The green light disappeared into their black hulls like water into sand. "Impossible," Kate said. "They're adapting to the weapons in real time." The Altarians tried next. Rainbow beams of crystal energy shot from their ships. The first few hits destroyed several Devourer vessels. But then the enemy started absorbing those attacks too. The Centauri opened fire with photon torpedoes. Balls of white light streaked across the battlefield. They worked for a few minutes. Then the Devourers learned to defend against them as well. "Captain," Ryan said urgently, "the enemy is adapting faster than the aliens can change tactics." Lisa watched in horror as the beautiful alien ships started taking damage. Vexstar S flagship lost its main weapon. Crystal Singer Nithara's ship went dark as its power systems failed. The Centauri were falling back already. "All ships, retreat to secondary positions," Kelson ordered. His voice sounded scared, but the Devourers pressed their attack. They had learned everything they needed to know. Now they were fighting back with weapons copied from the alien designs. Green plasma, crystal beams, and photon torpedoes fired from the dark ships. "The aliens are getting destroyed," Kate said. "Their own weapons are being used against them." "Captain," Ryan said, "Admiral Vexstar is requesting permission to withdraw." Lisa looked at the battle. The pretty alien ships were exploding one by one. The Devourers were winning easily. Soon they would move on to the civilian ships, including the evacuation vessels full of families and children. "Sir, we have to do something," Kate said. "Admiral Vexstar ordered us to stay back," Ryan reminded. Her dot Lisa watched another Zephyrian ship explode. She thought about all the people on the transport ships. They couldn't defend themselves. "Captain Brooks to Admiral Vexstar," she said. The green alien appeared on screen. His ship was smoking behind him. "What do you want, human?" "Request permission to engage the enemy." Vexstar laughed that broken glass sound. "Your primitive ship would be destroyed in seconds. Stay where you are." "But sir, the civilians." "That is an order, Captain." The communication ended. Lisa stared at the screen. More alien ships were dying. The Devourers were moving closer to the defenseless transports. "Captain," Ryan asked, "what are your orders?" Lisa looked at her crew. Kate was young but brave. Ryan was experienced and loyal. The rest of the bridge crew watched her with trust. In their eyes, "All hands, this is the captain," Lisa announced over the ship's speakers. "The alien fleet is being destroyed. Enemy ships are moving toward civilian targets. We've been ordered to stay back and watch." She paused. The bridge was completely quiet. But those are innocent people out there. Families, children, and we have a ship that can fight. Lisa looked at each member of her crew. I'm not going to sit here and do nothing. Anyone who wants to leave can take a shuttle to one of the transports. But I'm taking the ship into battle. Nobody moved. Kate smiled and turned back to her weapons console. Ryan nodded and checked his systems. The other crew members returned to their duties. All right then, Lisa said. Take us in, full speed. The USS Defiant turned away from the transports and flew toward the battle. Behind them, the alien commanders were too busy running to notice that the humans were disobeying orders. The USS Defiant flew toward the battle at full speed. Captain Lisa Brooks watched the view screen as alien ships exploded around them. The beautiful vessels that had mocked her ship 3 weeks ago were now burning wreckage floating in space. Distance. To enemy fleet? Lisa asked. 2 minutes at current speed, Kate replied from the weapons station. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls. Captain, I'm reading massive energy signatures from the Devourer ships. They're using every weapon type the aliens had. How is that possible? Ryan asked. He was monitoring the tactical situation. From his console. They learned from each attack, Lisa said. Every time the aliens fired a weapon, these things studied it and copied it. On the main screen, High Admiral Vextar's flagship was spinning out of control. Half of its hull was gone. Green flames poured from the damaged sections. The proud Zephyrian commander was trying to escape in a small rescue pod. Crystal Singer. Nethara's beautiful ship had gone completely dark. The rainbow lights that had made it so pretty were now just black crystal. No life signs came from inside. Fleet Marshal Calzone is calling for full retreat, Kate reported. The Centauri ships are falling back to the edge of the nebula. Lisa watched the chaos on screen. The Devourers had won the battle in less than an hour. Their dark ships moved through the wreckage like sharks. They were heading straight for the civilian transports. Captain, Ryan said urgently, the enemy is targeting the evacuation ships. Lisa could see them on the tactical display. Dozens of large ships full of families trying to escape. They had no weapons and no shields. The Devourers would destroy them all. How long until the enemy reaches the transports? Lisa asked. 8 minutes, Kate answered. And how long until we reach the Devourers? 3 minutes. Lisa stood up from her command chair. All hands, battle stations. This is not a drill. Red lights flashed throughout the ship. Crew members ran to their positions. In engineering, the fusion reactors powered up to full output. In the weapon bays, mechanical arms loaded shells into the railguns. Captain, Ryan said quietly, we're just one ship against thousands. Are you sure about this? Lisa looked at him. Ryan, I've been thinking about what those aliens said. They called our ship primitive. They laughed at our weapons and armor. They did, Captain. But what if they were wrong? What if different doesn't mean worse? The Defiant flew past the wreckage of a Zephyrian cruiser. Bodies floated in space. Among the debris, Lisa felt anger building in her chest. Kate, are the railguns ready? All 6 guns loaded and ready, Captain. Tungsten rounds with explosive tips. Kinetic barriers. Online and at full power, Ryan reported. All backup systems ready. The Defiant flew into the edge of the Devourer fleet. The enemy ships were spread out in a loose formation. They were dark and angular, like pieces of a broken mirror. Some were the size of office buildings. Others were as big as cities. Target the smallest ships first, Lisa ordered. Let's see how they handle something they haven't seen before. Kate locked onto a Devourer destroyer. It was about the same size as the Defiant, but shaped like a twisted knife blade. Firing solution ready, Captain. Fire, The railgun mounted on the front of the Defiant shot a tungsten rod at incredible speed. The metal slug was only 3 feet long, but it weighed 2 tons. It moved at a significant fraction of light speed. The round hit the Devourer ship in the center. It punched through the hull like it was made of paper. The tungsten rod went completely through the enemy vessel and came out the other side. A second later, the explosive tip detonated inside the ship that the Devourer destroyer exploded into 1,000,000 pieces. Direct hit. Kate shouted, "Target destroyed." More Devourer ships turned toward the Defiant. Their sensors were trying to understand what had just happened. They had never seen a weapon like that before. "Captain, the enemy ships are scanning us," Ryan reported. "But they seem confused. Their sensors are designed to detect energy weapons." "Fire again," Lisa ordered. "Different target." Kate targeted a larger Devourer ship. This one looked like a black pyramid with weapons sticking out of every face. The railgun fired again. Another tungsten rod streaked across space. It hit the pyramid ship near the base. The round drilled through 3 levels of armor before exploding inside. The pyramid folded in on itself and disappeared in a bright flash. 2 ships down, Kate said. "The enemy is trying to adapt to our weapons." Lisa watched the tactical display. The Devourer ships were moving differently now. They were trying to figure out how to defend against kinetic weapons. "Captain," Ryan sighed, "3 enemy ships are approaching fast. They're firing at us." Green plasma beams and crystal energy bolts shot toward the Defiant. Lisa gripped her chair as the ship shook. "Shields holding," Ryan reported. "But that's strange. The impacts feel different." "Different how?" "The kinetic barriers are absorbing the energy and spreading it across the hull. It's like the ship is built to handle this kind of attack." More enemy ships opened fire. Rainbow beams, photon torpedoes, and plasma cannons all hit the Defiant at once. The ship shook and rolled, but it didn't break apart. "Hull integrity at 85%, Ryan said with surprise. "Captain, our armor is designed to absorb and redistribute energy impacts. The aliens built their ships to avoid being hit. We built ours to take a beating." Lisa smiled. "Fire all guns." Continuous barrage. All 6 railguns on the Defiant began firing as fast as they could reload. Tungsten rods streaked out in all directions. Each shot found a different target. Devourer ships began exploding throughout the fleet. The enemy had adapted to energy weapons by learning to absorb them. But kinetic weapons were different. They were solid matter moving very fast. You couldn't absorb a chunk of metal traveling at light speed. "The enemy is trying to use kinetic barriers like ours," Kate reported. "But they're not working. Their ships aren't built for it." "Keep firing," Lisa ordered. "Don't give them time to adapt." The battle continued for 20 minutes. The Defiant flew through the middle of the Devourer fleet like a shark among minnows. Tungsten rounds destroyed ship after ship. The enemy tried everything they could think of, but nothing worked. "Captain," Ryan said excitedly, "I'm monitoring their communications. The Devourers are confused. They've never encountered weapons like ours." "What are they saying?" "They're calling us the metal throwers. They don't understand how we're winning." Lisa looked at the tactical display. Half of the Devourer fleet was gone. The other half was trying to retreat. "Kate, target their largest ship, the one that looks like a cathedral." The main Devourer command ship was enormous. It was shaped like a dark church with spires and flying buttresses. Weapons covered every surface. It was the size of a small moon. "Captain, that thing is huge," Kate said. "Our rounds might not be able to penetrate it." "We'll see." Load armor-piercing rounds in guns 1 through 4. High explosive in guns 5 and 6. The railguns fired in sequence. 4 tungsten rods with pointed tips hit the command ship in different places. They drilled deep into the hull. Then the explosive rounds hit the same spots. The massive ship shuddered. Cracks appeared along its surface. Internal explosions lit up the dark hull from inside. "It's working," Kate shouted. "The command ship is taking critical damage." But the Devourer flagship wasn't finished. Every weapon on its hull turned toward the Defiant. Hundreds of energy beams shot out at once. "Incoming fire," Ryan warned. "All energy types." The Defiant disappeared in a ball of light, as every kind of weapon the Devourers had learned hit it. At the same time, plasma, crystal beams, photon torpedoes, and fusion bombs all exploded against the human ship. When the light faded, the Defiant was still there. The hull was blackened and smoking, but the ship was intact. "Hull integrity at 40%, Ryan reported. "But we're still here." Lisa looked at the command ship. It was listing to one side, and fires were visible through cracks in the hull. "One more time," she said. "All guns, fire." 6 tungsten rods hit the Devourer command ship at the same time. The massive vessel broke apart like a toy. Explosions rippled along its length as internal systems failed. In seconds, the pride of the Devourer fleet was nothing but debris. "Command ship destroyed," Kate announced. The remaining Devourer ships suddenly stopped moving. Without their command vessel, they seemed lost and confused. "Captain," Ryan said in amazement, "the entire fleet is shutting down. They're just floating there." Lisa sat back in her command chair. Around them, thousands of dead Devourer ships drifted in space like black tombstones. "Status report," she said. "All enemy vessels destroyed or disabled," Kate reported. "No active threats detected. Damage to our ship?" "Hull damage. Some system failures, but nothing critical," Ryan said. "We can make repairs." Lisa looked at the main screen. In the distance, she could see alien rescue ships moving toward the wreckage of their fleet. The beautiful vessels that had mocked the Defiant were now just floating metal. "Captain," Kate said quietly, "we did it. We actually did it." "Yes," Lisa said, "we did. And now everyone will know what human engineering can really do." Captain Lisa Brooks stood on the bridge of the USS Defiant and watched the rescue operations through the main view screen. Alien ships moved slowly through the debris field, searching for survivors. The beautiful vessels that had laughed at her ship were now twisted metal floating in space. "Captain," Kate said from the weapons station, "we're getting communication requests from every surviving alien commander." "Put Fleet Marshal Calzon through first," Lisa replied. The Centauri leader appeared on the main screen. His large black eyes were wide with shock. Behind him, his bridge was dark and smoking. Sparks flew from damaged control panels. "Captain Brooks," Calzon said. His calm voice was gone. Now he sounded amazed and confused. "How is your ship still functional? The Devourers hit you with everything they had." Lisa looked at Ryan, who nodded back at her. They had talked about this moment during their long journey to the battle. "Marshal, our ship was designed differently than yours," Lisa explained. "Human engineers think about problems in their own way. But the weapons that destroyed you, they did not destroy you." "How?" Ryan stepped forward. "Sir, may I explain the technical details?" "Please do, Commander." Ryan activated the ship's holographic display. A 3-dimensional image of the Defiant appeared in the air above the bridge. "Our hull isn't made from one type of material," Ryan began. "It's built in layers. Each layer does a different job." The hologram showed the inside of the ship's armor. It looked like a sandwich with many different layers. "The outer layer is ceramic composite," Ryan continued. "It breaks apart when hit by energy weapons, but breaking apart is the point. It spreads the energy across a wider area. Under that is a layer of metal foam, Kate added. She had learned about the ship's design during her training. The foam absorbs kinetic impacts and heat. Then comes the main structural layer, Ryan said. Titanium and carbon fiber woven together. It's flexible, so it bends instead of breaking. Fleet Marshal Calzone stared at the hologram. Your ship is designed to be damaged? Yes, sir, Lisa said. Our engineers knew we couldn't avoid being hit, so they built a ship that could survive being hit. But what about your weapons? Calzone asked. The Devourers adapted to our energy beams in minutes. How did your ... kinetic cannons ... continue to work? Lisa smiled. Because we don't fire energy, Marshal. We fire chunks of metal. The hologram changed to show one of the Defiance railguns. It was a simple design compared to alien weapons. Just magnetic coils around a metal rail. The railgun uses magnetic fields to accelerate a tungsten rod, Kate explained. The rod weighs 2 tons and moves at a large fraction of light speed. When it hits a target, it doesn't rely on energy transfer, Ryan added. It just punches a hole through whatever is in the way. The Devourers couldn't adapt because there's nothing to adapt to, Lisa finished. It's just a very fast chunk of metal. Calzone was quiet for a long moment. Your weapons are ... primitive, but they work. Sometimes simple is better, Lisa said. Another communication came through. High Admiral Vextar appeared on a second screen. He was in a rescue pod, floating among the wreckage of his flagship. His green scales looked pale, and his triangular head hung low. Human Captain, Vextar said. His voice had lost its sharp, mocking tone. I must apologize for my words at the summit. No need, Admiral, Lisa replied politely. But there is a need, Vextar insisted. I called your ship a flying brick. I said it belonged in the Stone Age. I was wrong. Admiral, your ships are beautiful and advanced, Lisa said. They're faster than ours and have better sensors. But they could not save us, Vextar said bitterly. Your ugly metal box destroyed an entire fleet that we could not even scratch. Crystal Singer Nethera's voice came through on a third channel. Her crystal body was cracked and dim, but she was alive in a rescue pod from her ship. Captain Brooks, she said. Her wind chime voice was soft and sad. My people pride ourselves on our advanced technology. We grow our ships from living crystal. We bend light itself to our will. Your ships are works of art, Lisa said sincerely. I've never seen anything so beautiful. Beautiful but useless, Ithara replied. When the Devourers learned to counter our weapons, we became helpless. But your simple metal weapons continued to work. Ryan looked at the tactical display. Captain, the alien commanders are asking about our other systems. They want to understand how we build things differently. Lisa nodded. Show them our computer network. The hologram changed again. This time it showed the ship's computer systems. Instead of one central computer, there were hundreds of smaller ones, connected by physical cables. Most of your ships use quantum computers connected by energy fields, Lisa explained. Very fast and very efficient, but easy for an enemy to hack, Kate added. The Devourers got into your systems within minutes. Our computers are isolated from each other, Ryan said. Each system handles one job. If the enemy hacks one computer, they can't reach the others. Plus, we have manual backups for everything, Kate continued. If all the computers fail, humans can still operate the ship. Manual backups? Vextar asked. You mean ... using your hands? Yes, sir, Lisa said. Every critical system has physical controls. Humans can fire the weapons, steer the ship, and control life support without computers. That is ... double quotes. Calzone paused, searching for words. Redundant. Inefficient. But it works, Lisa said. When your advanced systems failed, our simple ones kept going. Another alien voice joined the conversation. It was Captain Terhall of the Hegemony Forces. His people looked like giant insects with 4 arms and compound eyes. Captain Brooks, Terhall said. My ships use neural interface controls. The pilot thinks, and the ship responds instantly, much faster than manual controls. That sounds amazing, Lisa said. But the Devourers learned to interfere with our neural links, Terhall continued. My pilots became confused and disoriented. Some could not control their ships at all. Our pilots use physical controls, Kate said. Switches, buttons, and steering wheels. Nothing to hack or interfere with. Steering wheels? Nethera asked. Like ancient ground vehicles? Exactly like that, Ryan said with a grin. Simple and reliable, the alien commanders were quiet for several minutes. They were all thinking about what they had learned. Finally, Fleet Marshal Kelzan spoke. Captain Brooks, I have a question. Did your engineers know that your simple systems would work better against adaptive enemies? Lisa looked at her crew. Honestly, Marshal, we didn't know we would face enemies like the Devourers. But human engineers always assume that something will go wrong. We planned for failure, Ryan added. Every system has a backup. Every backup has a backup. We don't build things to be perfect, Kate said. We build things to keep working when they break. And everything breaks eventually, Lisa finished. Vextar made a sound that might have been laughter, but not the mocking kind from Ventrim. Before, you humans planned to fail. We planned for failure, Lisa corrected. There's a difference. Yes, Kelzan said slowly. Yes, I think I understand now. Your ship is not primitive. It is practical. Thank you, Marshal. Captain, Ethara said. Would your engineers be willing to share their knowledge with us? My people would like to learn about redundant systems and manual backups. And kinetic weapons, Vextar added. I want to understand how they work. I think that can be arranged, Lisa said. Human engineers love to explain their work. Ryan was monitoring the sensor readings. Captain, the civilian transports are requesting permission to approach. They want to thank us for saving them. Lisa looked at the tactical display. Dozens of large ships were moving toward the Defiant. These were the vessels they had saved. Ships full of families and children who would have died if the humans hadn't acted. Permission granted, Lisa said. Tell them they're welcome to approach. As the transport ships drew closer, Lisa felt proud of her crew and her ship. The Defiant might not be beautiful like the alien vessels. It might not be fast or elegant or advanced, but it had done something that all the pretty ships couldn't do. It had kept fighting when everything else failed. It had saved lives when others could only run away. Captain, Kate said quietly. Message from Admiral Morrison on Earth. He wants a full report. Tell him we'll have a lot to report, Lisa said. And tell him the aliens want to learn about human engineering. I think they're going to want to build ships like ours, Ryan said. Lisa nodded. Good. Maybe next time we won't be the only ones who can fight back. The rescue operations continued around them. But now the aliens weren't just picking up survivors. They were studying the wreckage, trying to understand what had gone wrong and how the humans had gone right. 6 months after the battle at Titan Nebula, Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the main hall of the new Kepler station. This time, the meeting was different. The aliens didn't laugh when he walked into the room. Instead, they stood up and bowed, their heads with respect. The table was still circular, but now the human delegation sat in the center. Jake was flanked by Captain Lisa Brooks and Commander Paul Hayes. Lisa wore a new uniform with extra medals on her chest. Paul carried a briefcase full of technical blueprints that every alien species wanted to see. Welcome back, Admiral Morrison, said Fleet Marshal Calzin. The Centauri leader's voice was warm and grateful. "We are honored to have Earth's representatives here today." Jake nodded politely. "Thank you, Marshal. We're glad to be here." "Admiral," said Crystal Singer Nethara. Her crystal body was brighter than before, fixed after the battle damage. "Our scientists have been studying the reports from the Defiance encounter with the Devourers. We would like to understand more about human engineering principles." "Of course," Jake replied. "Captain Brooks can explain the technical details." Lisa stood up and activated a holographic projector. The image of a new ship appeared above the table. It looked like the Defiant, but larger and more advanced. "This is the USS Resilience," Lisa began. "Our second-generation deep space warship. We built it using lessons learned from the Devourer battle." The alien delegates leaned forward to study the hologram. The ship was still angular and practical-looking, but it had new features that caught their attention. "The hull design is similar to the Defiant," Lisa continued. "Layered armor with ceramic composite, metal foam, and titanium carbon fiber weave. But now we've added adaptive plating that can reconfigure itself during battle." High Admiral Vex Tar raised one of his thin arms. His green scales had grown back their shine since the rescue. "Captain Brooks, my engineers have tried to copy your kinetic weapons, but our versions are not as effective as yours." "Why?" Lisa smiled. "Admiral, may I ask how your engineers approached the problem?" "They used computer modeling to design the perfect projectile," Vextar answered. "Mathematical calculations to determine optimal mass, shape, and velocity." "That's the difference," Paul said, opening his briefcase. "Human engineers don't try to build perfect weapons. We build weapons that work even when they're not perfect." Paul pulled out a metal rod. It was rough and simple compared to the elegant, alien tools around the table. "This is a tungsten penetrator round," Paul explained. "It's not perfect. The weight isn't exactly calculated. The shape isn't mathematically optimal. But it works every time." "Why?" asked Captain Terhall of the Hegemony. His insect-like compound eyes studied the simple metal rod. "Because we tested it by shooting it at things," Lisa said. "We didn't just model it on computers. We built thousands of these rounds and fired them at targets until we found what worked. Trial and error," Jake added. "Human engineers learn by breaking things." The aliens looked confused. Crystal Singer Nethara spoke up. "But surely computer modeling is more efficient than physical testing?" "Maybe," Paul said. "But computers can only model what you tell them to model. Reality is messier than computer." Simulations. Lisa activated another hologram. This one showed the battle at Titan Nebula from the Defiance perspective. "The Devourers adapted to your weapons because they could analyze the energy patterns and copy them," Lisa explained. "But they couldn't adapt to our kinetic weapons because there was nothing to analyze. A chunk of metal moving fast is just physics," Paul added. "You can't reprogram physics." Fleet Marshal Calzin stood up. "Captain Brooks, Admiral Morrison, my government has authorized me to make a formal request. The Centauri Republic would like to purchase human-designed warships." "As would the Zephyrian Empire," Nextar said quickly. "And the Altarian Collective." Nethara added Datsun. Every alien delegate at the table was making the same request. They all wanted ships built like the Defiant. Jake held up his hand for quiet. "We appreciate your interest, but Earth's policy is not to sell weapons to other worlds." The aliens looked disappointed. Some began to protest. "However," Jake continued, "we are willing to share our engineering knowledge. We can teach your shipbuilders how to think like human engineers." "What do you mean?" asked Kelzin. Paul stood up and walked to the holographic display. "Human engineering is based on 3 principles. First, Assume everything will break. He pointed to different parts of the ship. Every system has a backup. Every backup has a backup. Nothing is perfect, so we plan for failure. Second, Lisa continued, simple is better than complex. The more complicated something is, the more ways it can go wrong. Third, Jake finished, test everything in the real world. Computers are useful, but they can't replace actual experience. The alien delegates were taking notes frantically. This was completely different from their approach to engineering. Admiral, said a new voice. It was Ambassador Selfara of the Galactic Council. She was an ancient being from a species so old that nobody remembered their real name. There is another matter we must discuss. The room grew quiet. Ambassador. Selfara rarely spoke at these meetings. The Devourers came from the Andromeda Galaxy, she continued. Our long-range sensors have detected movement in other galaxies as well. More machine fleets are coming. A chill ran through the room. The aliens had barely survived one Devourer attack. The thought of facing more was terrifying. How many? Jake asked. Unknown, Selfara replied. But they are larger than the first fleet, much larger. When will they arrive? Lisa asked. The nearest fleet will reach our galaxy in 18 months, the ambassador said. We must be ready. Jake looked around the table at all the alien faces. They were scared, but they were also determined. Then we have work to do, Jake said. Earth will help train your engineers and shipbuilders. We'll share everything we know about practical engineering. But in return, Lisa added, we need access to your advanced technologies. Your computers, sensors, and propulsion systems are far better than ours. Agreed, said Kelson immediately. Yes, Vextar said. Combined human practicality with alien advancement. We can build ships that are both advanced and reliable, Nethera added. Over the next several hours, they worked out the details. Alien. Engineers would train on Earth, learning human approaches to design and testing. Human engineers would visit alien worlds, studying their advanced technologies. There's one more thing, Jake said as the meeting ended. Captain Brooks will command the joint fleet when the next Devourer attack comes. The aliens looked surprised. Some seemed ready to object. Admiral, Vextar said carefully, Captain Brooks is skilled, but she has less experience than some of our commanders. She has experience fighting Devourers, Jake replied firmly. That's more important than anything else. The Admiral is right, Kelson said. Captain Brooks understands how to fight an adaptive enemy. We do not. I will follow her orders, Nethara said. As will I, added Tor single quotes, held out one by one. Every alien commander agreed to serve under human leadership. Lisa felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. I won't let you down, she said. We know you won't, Vextar replied. You saved. Use once. We trust you to do it again. As the meeting broke up, aliens approached the human delegation with technical questions. They wanted to understand everything about human engineering philosophy. Jake watched Lisa explaining kinetic barriers to a group of Centauri engineers. She was patient and clear, just like she had been during the battle. Admiral, Paul said quietly, do you think we can really stop the next attack? Jake looked around the room. Aliens and humans were working together, sharing knowledge and building trust. The species that had mocked Earth's primitive technology were now eager to learn from it. Paul, Jake said, 6 months ago, everyone in this room thought human engineering was a joke. Now they're begging us to teach them. That's true, sir. We showed them that different doesn't mean wrong. That simple can be better than complex. That planning for failure is smarter than assuming success. Jake watched Lisa demonstrate a manual backup system to a fascinated group of Altarian crystalsmiths. The next Devourer fleet will be bigger and more dangerous, Jake continued. But It will face something the First Fleet never encountered. What's that, sir? Jake smiled. A galaxy full of species that learn to think like humans. Ships that are built to survive damage instead of avoiding it. Weapons that can't be copied or adapted to. Engineers who test their designs by breaking them. Paul nodded slowly. And Captain Brooks leading the fleet. And Captain Brooks leading the fleet. Jake agreed. As they left the station, Jake felt confident about the future. The galaxy had learned an important lesson from Earth's prototype ship. Sometimes the best solution wasn't the most advanced or elegant one. Sometimes the best solution was the one that kept working when everything else failed. The USS Defiant had started as a joke, a primitive metal box that aliens mocked and dismissed. But it had become something much more important. It had become proof that human ingenuity could save the galaxy. And when the next threat came, they would be ready.